Alright, episode 5, bonus episode. Hosted home draft, done with some friends, mostly from work. My packs for this one are Rise of Ilya Eldrazi, Conspiracy Take the Crown, and Ravnica, starting with Rise. Definitely a lot of decent cards in this pack, a lot of creatures that make Eldrazi spawn tokens when they come into play. Those seem very good, making 2 bodies and ramping. Frostwind, any of the invokers are pretty good, especially the white and blue one. And then Palaka Worm, that's a bomb at uncommon for some reason. I think when I first saw Magma, I thought it was sack a permanent to deal 1 damage, and that doesn't seem like a card that should exist, so it seems okay. I think it takes a bit for me to realize that that you need non-land permanents, but Palaka Worm is just so good. Just a 7 mana 7/7 trample, gains you life when it comes into play and draws a card when it dies. I really like it as a first pick. A little expensive, so you do have to try to find ways to stall the game or ramp out into it. Yeah, I realize that you need non-land permanents and it costs mana to do it. Like a lot of hoops to jump through for a 5 mana 4/4. Yep, Rise was my first ever draft set. I was definitely garbage at it at the time. Surprisingly pretty fun. I'm sure people have more knowledgeable opinions on the set, but I definitely has a lot of member berries for me. Yep. Considering getting a whole box, but good lord, as soon as you open it, you're screwed out of money. Might just get like repacks or something. Double feature, red removal spell, or I'm sorry, black removal spell. These packs are usually pretty loaded with playables from the few drafts that I've done and few prize packs that I've opened. Sensia Uprising seems like a bomb, just a 4 mana enchantment that makes a 1/1 every turn that you could eventually burn it to dome something for 7 to hit your opponent or one of their threats. But just an enchantment that pumps out a 1/1 every single turn is just on your end step. It's not even upkeep. It's just seems very good. And I think seeing that and like, I wish I'd take the Magma. Those two work really well together. And I think those packs come with 2 rares, so the drafter to my right probably picked up the other rare in the pack, if that's the case. We're on Modern Horizons 1. I love talismans, just even off-color ones, just 2 mana ramp artifacts are always pretty playable. Obviously you want them to be on color, but me picking the Palaka Worm first pick is it's hard to find anything that's going to top that. Igneous Elemental's a little worse in a format that you can't reliably get your lands in the graveyard, but still reasonable. Otherwise, not seeing too much that's exciting in the pack. Gargantuan's okay. It's kind of a filler idiot. Another Modern Horizons pack, some more slivers, another Igneous Elemental. Rock's Veteran's pretty playable. I like Trumpeting Herd a lot, just 4 mana, get 2 3/3s over 2 turns. And I'm already trying to commit and block off green. I'm pretty happy with the start. Something I probably didn't realize at this point and continue throughout the draft is that I need to be considering lower picks because everything's kind of expensive so far. 4 or more. 4 is pretty reasonable, but I probably pick up way too many expensive. Like I'm looking at the Greater Basilisk. That's 5 mana for 3/5 Death Touch. Bizarre Barge is good. But Growth Charm is definitely an interesting one. It has a lot of utility for a 3 mana instant. I like the regrowth effect a lot. They're the most out of all of them for sure.
It was fun. I played it a couple times. They kind of jammed 2 sets together.
Yeah, again, interested in green, interested in the utility that it has to offer.
The cards were kind of wasted in art done, but I thought it was pretty neat. I think packs didn't beat the cost.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed by double feature. Back on Kamigawa. This pack had doo-doo in it, from what I remember, yes. Yep, so some fixing in colors I'm not playing, some mediocre artifacts. Apprentice isn't very good. Favorite Jukai's okay. Can be a regrowth, or giant growth for 2 mana. Otherwise, the enchantment side of it's a little risky, obviously. You don't want to get 2 for 1. Befriending in Moss is definitely the most powerful card in the pack. I think I pick it to kind of stay open in case red is not an option. Rise pack retable. There's only 6 people in this draft, so you're going to see it packs at least 3 times. Knight of Cliffhaven's okay. Can get level up creatures is usually pretty good. Ondu Giant tables. And then Magma comes back, and I already have the Stenzi Uprising, so I think at that point, I think from when I opened it till this point in the draft, I overrated that card a lot. It is definitely very good. Like being able to pay 1 mana a sack anything to ping anything, any target for 1 is reasonable. But for me, it definitely gets better with my token maker. And it can be a way to close out the game if you're pressuring your opponent. It's kind of hard to have tribal synergy in Wacky, unless everyone's really heavily drafting packs around tribal sets. Even in tribal sets, it's hard to have tribal synergy. Like, I know the Shadows of Innistrad kind of touted some tribal stuff, but it wasn't very strong. Modern Horizons, you had to get lucky to get most of the tribal stuff that you wanted, and a lot of it had to do with the shapeshifters, changelings. Oh, glad they didn't mix up those packs on the other side. Alright, double feature comes back. Ardent Elementalist I like, and I drop it to the floor. 4 mana creature that can buy you back instant removals or instant or sorcery spell is pretty reasonable. Belligerent Guest is fine. Ambusher's not very good unless you're heavily into vampires. Yeah, at this point I look back at my picks, I'm like, what instants and sorceries do I have? Getting back the Trumpeting Heart would be so good, especially on turn 5. Or the Giant Growth. Test card. Modern Horizons, Igneous Elemental, Elvish Fury.
Yeah.
Not too much in this pack of my colors, so I just take the Elemental. Another Elemental. It seems that at this point that not many people are interested in red. And my cat's being a pain in the butt. So at this point, I probably should have taken that 2-drop creature. I think I definitely overvalued high-drop creatures. Like in this case too, I think I take the Basilisk over the Invoker, and I probably should have lowered my curve some more. This deck winds up being very heavy CMC'd, which can be good if you have a lot of ramp, but unfortunately a lot of the ramp I did see doesn't table. The Rhyme Tender, I guess the Rhyme Tender isn't even ramp. That's why I didn't take it. I remember saying I'm not going to have any snow lands to untap with it, so it's just a 2-mana 2/2, which I think you want some of those. I think you want some, even if it's not good, creatures on 2.
It does, yeah. You need to die.
If you don't have creatures on 2, you need to be doing something else, either holding up removal spells, or ramping, or drawing cards. Just pick the more likely to be playable creature, or a Finesse, which is not playable. Yeah, evaluating my picks, most of my curve starts at 4. It's not great. Don't have much for removal at that point, just a Magma, I think. Yeah, I lay birdseed out on my ledge for my cat to watch the birds, and sometimes Voldaren Ambusher can trigger. 1 point of damage on a creature. Otherwise, I probably should have scooped up the Moon Silver Key. I think the option of being able to splash later might have been better. This is another case of me getting married to my first pick, where triple green off of Palaka Worm is very hard to cast if you're playing 3 colors.
That's our last pick. Pack 2.
Alright, we cracked a Conspiracy pack with C. Red removal spell / fixing. Collar of Gales can give you some evasion. I like the Monarch. I haven't played with it much in Limited in 1v1, so definitely interested. I pull those 2 cards to the front to see if they're worth taking. Another removal spell that can do graveyard hate. Sometimes graveyards can get out of control. In Wacky Draft, it's not very common, but having the option to remove graveyards is good. A board wipe in red, something I probably should have considered. When I look, I see 2 red Draft Matters cards or Conspiracy cards. Volatile Chimera, 3 mana 3/2, but it can copy one of 3 cards you exile as the game begins. So you have like a pile of 3 creature cards, and it can randomly become a copy of one of them when you activate that ability. I figure it's the fun pick. Obviously, Sulphurous Blast or one of the Monarch enablers would be better, probably Sulphurous Blast, especially considering how high my curve is, having a board wipe on 3, or even some of the red removal spells in there. There's a decent amount of red options in that pack, but I want to take the fun card. I want to see what it can do. Plus, it has a little bit of a gamble to it, because if you have one really good creature in that pile of 3 that you really want to hit, then you have to get lucky, maybe activate it a few times in the same turn to try to hit it. But I think I'm pretty solidly red-green at this point. Unless it completely dries up and I see really bomb cards in another color, I'm not going to switch at this point. Kunai is reasonable. Some good black removal spells, and then I see the Voltage Church. But Twisted Embrace and Lethal Exploit are good in a black deck for sure. Someone not taking the basic. Pretty basic. Yeah, the Voltage Church definitely helps with my high curve and gets those low aggro creatures out of the way. I suppose I could also sack the Talisman to it later if I needed to burn something for 4. Yeah. I'm also keeping an eye out. So the creatures that you exile the Volatile Chimera don't need to be in my colors. They can be like, I don't know, Inkwell Leviathan or whatever it is. Just something stupidly big and powerful in other colors. Too bad there was no Ixalan at the table. I know there's often dumb dinosaurs that are like 9/11s or something that are just impossible to cast.
Trying to convince other people that you're not.
The Winged Shepherd would be a good hit for something like that. Pulsar Marasa I like a lot. Blossoming Dryad helps ramp, but then I see this 7 mana 7/5 dragon with an ETB trigger. Large Pox, not really playable, especially in my deck, but the dragon I didn't even know existed. I don't think I've ever seen that dragon before, and it's like, well, I have 2 options. I can play it main board if I get enough ramp and if my opponent's slow enough, or I can put it in the stack of 3 for Volatile Chimera, so.
He usually doesn't, like, we occasionally have single gas over, but I don't know, he's never been looking at private people.
Yeah, Dice did fairly well with all the guests that we had over that day, but I could definitely tell he was getting grumpy that he was getting deprived of sleep by having people around. Getting all the attention and pets.
Take a nap. He's usually sleeping.
Yep.
I should do more mystery drafts. Figure out how good those packs are.
I have done a decent amount of them, but the last few I've done are sealed, and I don't think Mystery is sealed is as fun as Booster Draft. Flicker Spell. Mediocre Creature Spell. Fan Favorite's kind of interesting. Shock. I already picked one of those up, but this one being able to hit an opponent's also reasonable. I'm fine playing 2 Shocks. Shock-like effects in the deck. Otherwise, in my colors, not really anything. A 4/3 for 4 is okay. That can sometimes get first strike. Warrior is pretty common creature type that I probably have some others. I think I'm actually looking for them now. Nope. That's fine. 4 mana, 4/3 is playable. Return to the Earth is also reasonable, especially out of the sideboard, but yeah, Shock's just fine. Back on Ixalan. Balaged Recovery. Thundering Rebuke is good. For 2 mana for deal 4 to any creature. It's reasonable. Take the Balaged Recovery because it does a lot. Plus I wanted another copy of it, but definitely debatable between that and the deal 4 spell. Especially, I guess, considering the games that I played and the opponents I faced, having reliably being able to remove something with 2 mana would probably be better than Balaged, but doesn't really take up a spell slot either, so it's kind of a 24th free card. Which is less good in a deck that I'm trying to shoot 3 of my playables into my sideboard for Volatile Khmer.
August is usually the worst. He's waiting for you to slip up.
Cat. Brute Strength is fine. A lot of trash in this pack. A lot of it is good in that draft format, but not really playable outside of it. It's just fine. 2 mana, 2/2, or 1 mana, 1/1 lifelink that can come back. I just take the Brute Strength. I think it's a 23rd card. It could be played if I don't have a lot of non-creature spells. Repulse is pretty reasonable. Tempo deck. The Monarchy creature makes its way back, as does a removal spell and a Conspiracy, I believe, and another removal. So both the red removal spells from Conspiracy take the crown tabled. Very expensive though, both 5 mana. I think one of them is 5, one of them is 6. I think at this point I'm realizing my curve is way too high. No, I think I was checking to see if there's anything I wanted to fix for, but I take the Monarchy because obviously I wanted to try it out in Limited. Kunai's back. 2 mana, 2/1. Lethal Exploit tabled. Black could have been a splash for me for sure. I think I go to take the 2/1 and I'm like, the land is pretty though. And this is a casual fun draft that I don't care. I'd rather have some fun cards out of it. So yeah, I go back and look like, what 2-drops do I have? I'm like, you have no 2-drops. You really, really need that 2/1. 2 mana, 2/1's not very exciting, but it's fine. Like I said, you need to do something on 2 usually, if you can. Some games your opponent will just go 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, and if you don't do anything until turn 3, you're really, very far behind. My deck still doesn't really start anything until turn 4, for the most part. I'm glad the Blasting Dryad comes back, especially since it's the only card in the pack I even care for. Everything else is just especially outside or in my colors. But 3 mana, 2/2 that can ramp me into Palaka Worm or the Dragon is something I'm interested in. Flamewick Invoker with a 4/3. I guess I just don't really care for creatures that don't pass a vanilla test, like Flame Wave Invoker dealing 5 damage to target player for 8 mana. That can be good if the game goes long, but I think considering the high CMC of my deck already, the 4 mana 4/3 is probably just better. I think doing something on 3 is probably better considering how high the curve of my deck is.
Yeah, watch those multi-$1,000 vet bills.
Yeah, if you have a pet, get pet insurance. I probably saved thousands upon thousands of dollars because of pet insurance. Someone can't digest food. Or can't digest his own fur. Not really much in this pack I'm excited about. Molten Blast is fine. It's another more expensive shock with utility of being able to hit an artifact.
It is a lot of time.
Yeah, I mean, Cat Pack makes its way back. Nothing really good in this pack. I'm not playing Violent Impact. Might be a good sideboard if I see a land or something that's really troublesome, but... And tabling for the second time are both the removal spells, and I have an interesting choice here. I can take the more expensive one with the utility of basic land cycling, or I can take the one that hits the graveyard. I think, I'm really focusing on trying to lower my curve a little bit, and the ability to hit a graveyard is probably worth considering over just land cycling for what I'm trying to force at this point just to be a 2-color deck. I haven't seen many reasons to try to splash a 3rd color.
Ooh, complicated card. I'll take it. It at least has land cycling.
And I take the spell.
It at least do that.
Alright, final pass.
That is a card that I would want to slam in the attraction.
OG Ravnica set. Definitely a lot of interesting cards in this pack, and I'm not really all that familiar with the set. I was not around when this set came out. Yeah, it was a little tricky to open it. Old glue or something. Alright. A lot of multicolored cards in the set too. Some transmute cards. I don't know how to evaluate those for limited. They seem fine.
Sometimes there's not.
Probably
There's a card in there I think it's really cool. However, just,
Coal Hauler Swine. Can be a bit of a double-edged sword for sure. Like, it's a bad creature to play on the back foot. Infiltrator's good. Necromantic Thirst. Yeah, that's a pretty good one. Plus 1 toughness to all your creatures. Congregation at Dawn is fine. And then I see the Shock Land. I take the Shock Land. Filthy Money Drafter. This is a really pretty card. And I could still be considering Splash for black at that point. Alright, back on Amaket. Some okay filtering cards. Torment of Venom is a good black removal spell. The River Hoopoe. The Hope Tender probably is the correct pick here. I really like Hoopoe. I think 5 mana, gain 2, and draw a card, especially if you've stalled out the game at that point. And I don't have any real reliable way of getting it out, though. So I think the correct pick here should have been the Hope Tender, because it can ramp 2 lands, I believe. Or I think it exerts itself down to ramp once or something, but still think it was a better pick than Hoopoe without any way of fixing or running the 3rd color with some reliability. Ixalan, my favorite 3 mana 2/4s. Not so much. Naturalize. Go for Blood's fine. It's a sorcerer speed fight spell that you can cycle. I think that's okay. I imagine in most cases you don't want to cycle away a removal spell, but considering how beefy my creatures are, I think it would have been fine in the deck. I think here though I go for the 2/4. I think I'm like I need 2 and 3 drops. I need creatures. I need to pick up something that's going to stall me out a little bit so I can get to my late game. Plus the 2/4 having Vigilance is not the worst. I still don't like 3 mana 2/4s. Another Ixalan pack. Roiling Vortex is not very good. 6 mana 5/4 haste that might be cheaper is okay. Again, it's very expensive. Draga Visionary is cheaper, and I think it's just a better card. Pyroclastic Hellion. Both of those red spells are pretty expensive, and the 4 mana 3/2 that draws a card when it comes into play is good. Oh, Starfish. I wish I were in blue. I love Starfishes.
So it's kind of like...
Is it just the what was it, on whatever?
It's not.
It's a mistake. I love it.
Oh, they're asking what mutate is, and I try to give a very quick explanation of what that confusing mess was. Oh my god. I didn't hate Mutate. I think it was that set didn't really have much interesting going on, and Mutate kind of made things fun. It was obviously during the height of the pandemic, or when the pandemic started, you were playing online anyway, so.
It's very good.
Starfish is so good.
Scrying like 5 times.
Lantern of Undersight, draw cards from the bottom of your library. You have to do it too. I think it's good with Starfish. Nope. Still not good with Starfish. The Fire Slinger. There's, I think I mentioned this for the episode 4 dialogue, that Crawl Foragers is kind of underwhelming. It's just 5 mana, 4/4 that will gain you a few points of life, but I think I need it to kind of help stabilize once I hit turn 4 or 5. Experimental, synthesizers, some situational card draw.
Their solution to this
I think I take the Uncharted Haven because I know I picked the Hoopu, and I'm like, maybe I'll run it. Maybe this will just help me fix for my Palaka Worm. All right, Ravnica is back.
Where was it modified?
I don't think that creature's very good.
It's right there in the keyboard.
If you can self-mill, it can regenerate itself like crazy, but... another 6-drop creature. Take something cheaper. Oh, that Goblin's unplayable, though. Yeah, I take the Clawhauler's fine. I think I'm also thinking that I could turn the Volatile Chimera into that as well. It's only a slight power toughness upgrade, but the other effect, taking damage and burning both players. Tormented Venom, I think black might be a little bit more open. But I'm like, oh, 2 mana, 2/1 first strike. That can sometimes get bigger if I need it to, is one of the only few 2-drops I have. Frilled Sandwalla is probably playable in my current deck, considering how many not how many low drop creatures I have. I think it would have been okay. But having to invest into making it a 3/3 every turn is not something you can do all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just reviewing the picks. Yeah, all in all, I think this draft went okay. I think the curve was too high for sure. Which I think is fine sometimes. In some limited environments, it's okay to go high on the curve, but you need to not get unlucky and face an opponent who is very fast and aggressive without anything to do at all, because then you just lose. Like, you need early creatures, removal spells. You need to be able to deal with what they're throwing at you. I like Wilt. It can cycle itself, and it's a main board disenchant. Particularly good if you don't have a lot of, enough playables to make the deck. I feel like a problem my deck also suffered with too was that even if I did make it to the late game, most of the creatures I'm dropping into play don't have an immediate impact. Like, they can just come into play with Summoning Sickness and then eat a removal spell, and I'm just still out of luck. Still getting hit by 2 and 3 drops. But I think I'm mulling over between the 2 big creatures at this point, the 5/4 with haste or the Hellion. I think the Hellion's better. Does kind of set me back. I think at this point I just take the only card that I can really play in my deck. Does set me back on lands, which isn't great. But it could get back Valakite Recovery, which is also a good little synergy. Synthesizer, like I said, is situational card draw, so it's playable. It's a little random though. I would hate to exile my Palaka Worm off, but
especially if I could even
worst case scenario, you're paying 4 mana for a 2/2 and getting 2 chances at something off the top of your deck.
those are so many different paths. The basics.
Yeah, it's a little rough playing Wacky Draft with and hoping that all your cards have, all your packs have the right amount of cards, because some packs, like older sets, don't have, they replace basic lands, or sometimes you'll get a pack with 5 in it and then 3. It just have to kind of adjust to that and hope that nobody's making mistakes. I'll just take the only playable creature in the pack. These other 2 I'm not going to bother with. Life goes on. It sure does, but that card doesn't get played. I always thought it was interesting that a lot of the gain life spells don't target. Like target players should gain 8 life. That would do something. Be fun in like a multiplayer format or something. And land. And that's the draft.